senior senator and the leader of our delegation, Jack Reed, has had an absolutely vital role in protecting the funding for the environmental organizations of the federal government. As you know, this has not been easy. As you know, there is a pronounced effort to strip funding out of those organizations. But as you also know, when you go back and look at the budgets that we've been able to protect in the Senate, the cut on EPA in the last budget, they kept 98+% of their money. NOAA had no cut at all. ARPA-E was protected over and over and over again, a stalwart defense by Jack and his colleagues on the Appropriations Committee kept those programs not just there, but vibrant. So we owe him a great debt of gratitude, and let me bring on our wonderful senior senator, Jack Reed.
Thank you, Sheldon. I apologize. My voice, something happened to it. In fact, Sheldon will appreciate this. I'm not doing a Sherrod Brown imitation. If anybody knows my colleague from Ohio, he talks this way all the time, but I'm not trying to be funny. First, with the remaining voice I have, let me commend Sheldon for organizing this event. It's truly extraordinary. I look around the room and I see leaders that have done so much for Rhode Island and for the nation, and also young, committed people who are not only leading but will carry on. And I attribute that to many reasons, but one major reason is Sheldon Whitehouse, because he has been within the Senate the real leader on climate change. I mean, we all recognized it, we all paid lip service to it, but nobody went to the floor every week and spoke about it. In fact, last week, it was his 182nd speech on climate change. And he has not only set the record, but he has awoken the conscience and the sensibilities of the United States Senate, and to many degrees to the whole country, about climate change. And he has done that as part of our delegation. It's been echoed by Jim Landrin. Jim indicated what he was doing, by David Cicilline. And what I just try to do is keep the money coming. That it has a certain utility, but no. But I can't, and again, this is the truth. This is not anything else. I can't emphasize enough the critical role that he's played as a catalyst, as an inspiration, as somebody who is basically trying to set the agenda, the right agenda, for environmental change, for positive responses to problems that we know we're going to face. Now, that's at the Senate level. We understand that a lot of Washington isn't sympathetic to environmental change, particularly the administration. They have sent up huge cuts. They have done by executive order as much damage as they could do. And it's very short-sighted, extraordinarily short-sighted. And one of the assumptions that they always seem to operate on is that environmental policy, good environmental policy, is detrimental to job growth. That's absolutely false. And you have proven that here in Rhode Island. According to the 2017 Rhode Island Clean Energy Jobs Report, the clean energy sector supports over 15,000 jobs. It's an increase of 66% since 2014. You tell me another category of activity that is generating job growth in Rhode Island or any place else in the country, and I think they wouldn't have 66%. So one of the points that we take with pride, and Sheldon's mentions constantly, is the fact that here in Rhode Island we are setting the record straight. Environmental quality, high environmental standards create jobs. They do not cost jobs. The other factor, and one alluded to by Jim, is the fact that climate change is a national security issue. In a few minutes, I just noticed a tall gentleman walk in. I don't know if you noticed him, but these tall guys all hang out together, Sheldon and Jim. I think they're embarrassed by their abnormal height and many other factors. But, oh, it's Sean Kerry. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary. I had the privilege of working with John, and you'll have the privilege of listening to a moment, and he will, I think, be able to touch upon a full range of issues, but economic impacts, international impacts, national security impacts, because very few people have served with such distinction in the Senate and then served with even greater distinction as Secretary of State of the United States. John, thank you for being here. This national security issue is multifaceted, and Jim was very insightful about the need to look at our installations, the need to see which ones will be jeopardized. We know right now, as we're struggling with the budget, that over the next 10 years, we're going to have to spend hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, simply to keep many bases from being flooded, particularly Navy bases. But we also understand, and Secretary Kerry understands it's better than anyone, is that when you have climate change affecting countries like Pakistan and others, where you have floods and droughts and poor harvest, and you have a population that is on average in the 20s, I mean, lots of young men, that is a recipe for constant turmoil and constant threats to the United States. So what we're doing here is extremely important, and Rhode Island is leading the way. I want to thank you all. You know, one of the reasons there is a wind tower out there, in fact, the major reason, is not because of what we did in Washington. It was because it was in Rhode Island waters, and because of DEM, thank you, Janet, because of CRMC, thank you, Grover, because of the people of Block Island and the people of Rhode Island, and it's the only one on the Atlantic coast. In fact, I think, unfortunately, for a few years, it'll remain the only one. But that's because Rhode Island is understood, Rhode Island is cared. You made us care, so thank you for that. And without further ado, and I think I'm running out of gas in terms of elocution, thank you.